I'm buying, and I will show you what I'm buying. Some altcoins are cheap right now. I know what you think. They will be cheaper. Maybe. What if maybe not? You want to miss out on that? Let's take a look. Also, let's take a look at what's likely when it comes to alt season, because most people have stopped believing in it, and that's actually the time where you should not follow the crowd and just feel like, okay, I will stop believing with the rest. That's the moment where you should feel like, hey, a lot of people are doing this. If I do this, maybe I'll be the big winner. Welcome to the Fomo Factory. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on. Let's get into it. So let me start real quick. Alt season, right? We're all hoping for an alt season as soon as possible. Rather yesterday than today, and so far it didn't happen. And we can, of course, try to look for, what's the reason? Is it that there are too many altcoins out there? Is it that because altcoins are dead, that we all have fell for the scams, too many times, and that we understand it by now? No, we don't learn. We are in crypto. When prices are low, we're still fudding. So if we don't learn that, then we're also not gonna learn, the whole altcoin game, right? Now, the first thing though, which is really important, you do not want to buy the crap, the trash, the micro cap stuff that might do an 100x, because it might, and it probably will not, and completely wreck you. That's how most people got pretty wrecked with altcoins, to be fair, right? Because if you look, this is a chart, stable or altcoins versus Bitcoin. And yeah, if you look at this chart, you could say like, well, there has not been an alt season so far. Yeah, and that's very true. It's been boring. Then again, it also has not been really going down since 1.5 years. However, a lot of altcoins have been going down, right? How come? It's a little bit because of inflation. There are more altcoins on the market right now. So of course, this measures the market cap and not the price. But overall, for the relative, stood the test of time kind of altcoins, and, most of them, it's not that they had an 8x inflation over the last 2 years. If they had, then I would say, don't get into these coins, right? Because you will be dumped on. Overall, though, it just has been going sideways for a long time. And that's it. Like, against Bitcoin, yeah, they're pretty much at the same place as back in August 2024. Right now, why did we not get an alt season? And then I'm gonna get into the what I'm buying, when I'm buying, and etc. and what I base it on, which is, I think, most important, because you should never be like, oh, YouTuber is buying, I'm gonna do the same. That's fucking stupid, right? You don't want to do that. Doesn't matter who it is. If I think about alt season, look, it's a moment in the market where altcoins start to outperform Bitcoin, right? Why do they do that in the first place? And some people might think like, well, it's because retail comes in. No, but retail just doesn't feel like, hey, let's come in and let's pump alts. No, we need an alt season for retail. Otherwise, retail is not interested. Bitcoin can pump, retail looks and be like, okay, nice, bye. No. Then why do altcoins go up or down? Well, I think naturally they go down against Bitcoin because it's just not a long-term hold. At least 99% of them are not, right? There will be some, but I don't know. I can maybe count them on one hand if I really try my best. So naturally they will go down. People feel like, man, it's been long and there's no money and everything is getting dumped, and well, let me just sell this in case it will go down as well. And then you get that self-fulfilling prophecy that it will go down. That's the natural behavior of alts, right? If you look at alts on the Bitcoin pair right here, you can see it as well. From the 2017 cycle, basically they have been going down for 1,096 days, so let's say 1,100 days, right? In this cycle so far, if you take it from the top, they've been going down so far for 1,550 days, so even a year longer than the last cycle. Hey, a year longer. Might that also be a reason that there's no 4-year cycle? Yeah, you are probably correct when it comes to that. So naturally, they go down. If you look at how fast they are going up, Yeah, it's like, okay, this here was for like 130 days and then it went down and made it slightly higher. But overall, the fund really ended in 4 months, give or take. Right? In 2017, we had like two legs of it. But the second leg was about a month, about a month, and that's it. And then the first leg, kind of depending where you're taking it from, right? You can take it from here and put it here, and then it's like 3 months almost, 2.5 months, right? So of course, people are getting wrecked with altcoins because whenever this is happening, this pump upwards, if you've been there, then you know how that feels, right? You know, like, wow, this was worth everything, every pain, every rug, every scam, every bit of patience that I lost, everything. However, people remember that quite well. And when it goes down, they're like, nah, it will happen, it will happen, it will happen, it will happen. And then it's just one big bunch of time capitulation. And people get mad at the market. They get frustrated. They blame altcoin holders. They blame the altcoin devs. They whatever, right? Like everybody is to blame. That's the natural behavior of altcoins. And if I may predict, I think that that will never change. So lower your expectation of not the amount of access, but mostly of when it is going to happen. If you feel like it should happen now, nothing should. It's crypto. Nothing should happen. That's not how it works. It happens or it doesn't happen. And you can base your expectations on the right data. But then still, it is a casino, right? You have to be careful about that. Now, then what creates it to go up? What creates it to go up, in my opinion, is very human nature behavior. And that's simply when people have money, people love to gamble. And altcoins is pretty much nothing else than gambling, right? Like there are fantastic use cases out there, right? Like there are a lot of altcoins that try to solve great problems and have fantastic use cases. At the end of the day, does it need a coin? It's debatable, right? Like it's all gambling what we do actually. And that's what people just love to do when they have money. Now we are at the stage of the market where one, people don't have money, and two, for the last 4 years, it's kind of printed in their brain that if they do gamble, they're not winning. So why would they buy them, right? And that's the point where you should exactly consider to buy it, right? Because this long downward trend sucks the life out of you. This long sideways period sucks the last soul out of your dead body, right? And then you're gone. You're gone. You feel like, man, never mind. And then it pumps. Of course, that's what happens, right? And you could try to outsmart it, right? You could say like, no, we're now down here and now it will never go up. Fine. It's cool, right? You're not risking money directly. However, if it turns out to keep on continuing like this because human psychology, it doesn't change. And if it pumps, consider like, okay, am I strong enough to ignore that, to not buy the top, and to wait another 4, 5, 6 years? If the answer is yes, then that's fine. But the answer is gonna be fucking no, because you are in the altcoin market in the first place to make quick money, right? So you will not be able to do that. So fudding altcoins right now, the only thing that you can do is wreck yourself. You can be cautious and say like, I expect it to go down short term. Great. So don't DCA that much, or be able to set an invalidation area for yourself, right? Say like, you know what? I think they're going down further. I don't want to DCA at all. I rather DCA the uptrend, right? And that's fine. If you feel like I'm not going to DCA this period, but I'm going to DCA this right here, try. It's going to be really hard though. Really hard. Because here you already, not you, but you know, these people that I refer to, they already felt like, no, it's taking too long. It will go down. A lot of emotions. This right here is set for a lot more emotions. So if you are not able to handle a sideways market, then whenever shit goes down really fast or up really fast, I can guarantee you, you're gonna mess it up. I'm saying this from all the, at least the experience that I have and that I see people around me doing. So what's the best approach right now? And again, what will make it pump? Coffee is a good approach. Always. In my opinion, the best approach is first to be open to all kind of data, right? Not everybody is an analyst. Not everybody is a macro expert. Not everybody is a this, that, right? What you can do though is there are a lot of YouTube videos out there. Most of them suck. There are a lot of Twitter influencers out there. Most of them suck, but there are some gems out there as well. And try to look at everything and not only the thing that confirms your bias. If you are very, very, very bearish right now, you probably love following Capo on Twitter, right? Because he confirms your bias. You don't really love the Moon Carl, right? Like, but that's understandable because nobody does, okay? But you don't want to only look what fits your bias. That's gonna wreck you. I love looking at video. I'm bullish, right? I love looking at videos where people are bearish because I try to look for, okay, what are the reasonings and does it make sense? And how does it, does it outweigh my reasons to be bullish, yes or no? And then I can make the best, eventual assumption / prediction for myself. That's the best way to do it. So look at their data, confirm it, right? It's not hard. Like TradingView, like you can download, it's free. You don't have to understand it right away, but if you're not going to use it, you will never understand it. Now, what I think, what is going to pump the altcoin market? In my opinion, I think it's very simple, and maybe I'm overrating it or underrating it. But in my opinion, still, it is the ISM. Why? Because the ISM shows, is there money? And are people willing to spend money? We showed many times before, I've showed many, I say we like it's me and my imaginary friend right here. But I've showed many times before how the ISM is fully correlated with Bitcoin. That if you follow the ISM based off of your, or for your Bitcoin trading, you did perfect. And how ignoring this and following something like a 4-year cycle theory or something could get you into big trouble. Same goes for alts. However, more patience required because, again, I'm not going to explain this all. When this goes up, people, they want to spend money, basically. That's on the bottom line, basically. When it goes up and people want to spend money, what do? They still look at the altcoin market and be like, yeah, I finally have money. I know what not to do, so let me get into Bitcoin. So they're probably first going to buy Bitcoin, confirming the bear bias for the altcoin market more like, hey, you see, Bitcoin is running, altcoins are not. That's why we got such a big capitulation for altcoins in the last cycle before we got an alt season, because Bitcoin started to run really hard all of a sudden, and altcoins were like, meh. And that caused a fat wake down because everybody thought like this is way more rewarding. And that was the final capitulation. Now we might get that this cycle, we might not, I don't know. However, ISM up, people have money, they buy risk assets, always been the case. Look back at the last 75 years. Bitcoin came out since day one, it followed it right away. And it took Bitcoin 4 years before we started to, look at a 4-year cycle, because it topped end of 2013. I would say go with the theory, right? That's most accurate and makes most sense, right? I cannot put it any different way than that, actually. However, for the altcoin market, again, the exact same thing goes, but maybe even more. Because if people have money, they gamble on Bitcoin. If they have a lot of money, they gamble on altcoins, right? Now, if we overlay the altcoin market against Bitcoin, so Altseason chart, let's make it green, on the ISM, what do you notice? ISM always was in a, like, about, I don't know, 60 plus, 65 plus, give or take. And that's real, that's the moment where you should, be careful. But that's why Altseason started. Right here, first leg of 2017. Right here, and the ISM went down again. Bep, bep, bep. Altcoins followed nicely. Then ISM went up again. Altcoins had the second leg, end of 2017. Then in 2021, the beginning, end of 2020, beginning 2021, we had our second alt season, right? When the ISM was already sitting really high. Now, this is not a lot of data points, right? But again, if you look back on Bitcoin, if you look back at the S&P and overlay that with the ISM, you can see for yourself, like, yeah, okay, I get it. Risk assets, they, do this based on the money. It's not that weird, actually, if you think about it, right? There's their money, people buy shit. Like, yeah, what the fuck? Anyway, what you see right now as well is that in the end of December or the end of last year, around December, we got a pretty decent altcoin pump on the Bitcoin pair, right? And on the dollar pair, alts did very well. Some did 10x's, some did 20x's, right? Like, very well. But it's also because Bitcoin was sitting very high. Therefore, I said multiple months ago, like, and a week ago probably as well, like, we do not need alts to outperform Bitcoin really hard because there is a ton of liquidity in Bitcoin and not in the altcoin market. But what about the 40 million altcoins? If you exclude the ones that are dead, rocked, or unknown, then it's not really a problem, right? So on the dollar pair, fantastic. On the Bitcoin pair, the biggest dead cat bounce this cycle so far. Let me put it like that. But that happened while the ISM here, it started to go up. Took a little confirmation for the altcoin market and it followed very nicely. ISM went down again, bam. Altcoins went down again, bam. Follows perfectly. So this is one of the ingredients that I'm looking at, like, okay, you know, my initial on this channel prediction was that we get an alt season end of 2024, beginning 2025. This was not what I meant with that. Why did I say that? Because back then I only was looking at the 4-year cycle. And yeah, again, I started to study more and I don't believe in that. And based on the 4-year cycle, there was a dead wrong prediction as well. If we look at the ISM, it is pretty obvious though. And that makes it easier to expect and it makes the pain less hard as well, right? Because if I now look at the ISM, I'm like, okay, so, you know, we need to be pretty elevated on this one. Are we? No. So should we expect it right now? Nah. Right? That makes it a lot more bearable, right? Because if you expect or hope that it will happen maybe this month or next month and it still doesn't happen, yeah, then that's a lot of pain. But if I'm, for example, now sitting here like, you know, based on this, probably the first half of 2026, I don't think so. Yeah, then it still sucks if it doesn't happen, but I'm at least not expecting it, right? So it's not a slap in the face like that. Do I expect it second half 2026? Oh, maybe, but not the first half. And why not? A couple reasons. But the first reason is very simple. If you look at the ISM, where it is right now and how long it took on average to get from this point to the upside, it can happen in a couple months. It happened before. But on average, it takes a bit more time than that. It was, I think, 8 months on average, give or take. That puts us in around, what is it, August somewhere, July, August next year, if we get a good bunch of liquidity injection, right? Are we getting that? Hey, the forecast is good, right? The forecast is really good. We get Powell's going to be replaced. A lot of rate cuts probably. QT already stopped. Stealth QE already began. There is a lot of money, probably somewhere next or a Q1 being deployed in the stablecoin market. And not just a lot of money, but trillions. The Fed, the refinancing of the Fed debt. There's a lot of stuff that has a real good forecast, though. And sure, there are things that are looking less good. We have still a brewing war, and now Putin is like, "Oh, Europe, you're next," and I'm like, "What the fuck? What did I do?" I don't know, right? Shit could escalate, but then again, yeah, every black swan is not like 1 year announced before it happens, right? Otherwise, it's not a black swan. So that's always possible. But if you trade based on that, you're an idiot. Sorry, but that's like not smart, right? So let me put it like this. I don't expect it within now and 6 months. But I do keep in mind that like Q3, Q4, 2026, it is getting pretty likely, right? Does it mean that we don't get good pumps before that? No, it doesn't mean that at all. Because again, if we just looked at the altcoin market, right? If we overlay it right here, and this pump, this December pump on this chart, it looks like crap. It looks like nothing. My portfolio blew up there, right? Like it went crazy. crazy. Yeah, this was not an alt season, right? This is not going here or here or whatever, even here. It was nowhere close. Nowhere close. So, although it might sound disappointing, like, oh, if even FOMO says we're not getting an alt season, it doesn't mean you cannot like 10x your bags in the coming months, right? Because again, it doesn't take a lot. There's not a lot of liquidity in the altcoin market, especially in the low cap altcoin market. And I don't mean top 1,000 coins. I just mean top 50 and up to like 500 maybe, right? There's some crap in there, but there are some coins in there that are gonna go nuts, right? And one of the reason beings is also that if you look at, I mean, this for example, this is the low caps versus the high caps, and only the top 6 high caps, whatever is now in the top 10, I think, like it's Solana, XRP, and Doge, etc. These kind of coins, right? Whenever we in the last cycle, or in the beginning of this cycle, got this pump right here, that was nuts, right? If you look, and I'm not even gonna look at a real low cap, but Render, which I consider low cap when I compare it to the top 10 at least, right? Render went up from 30 cents, 40 cents to, it was, I can't even see it on this chart, but it was like $13, give or take. This thing went nuts. Now, the funny thing is though, that if you overlay Altseason again, didn't happen, right? Render did not go that crazy because it was Altseason. I mean, in fact, altcoins got completely destroyed against Bitcoin. But it was just that there was sitting a lot of money in the higher cap altcoins. And which higher caps are those? Again, BNB, for example. Fuck, BNB. Well, I mean, if we look at BNB right now, where was BNB sitting? BNB was sitting at 250 up to $600. Now, despite all the negative shit, BNB is still sitting around 800, well, 900 basically, right? And then we have an XRP, a Solana, etc., 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 right? So that makes me so much more optimistic. Like, okay, forget about Altseason, forget about altcoins outperforming Bitcoin for a while. Let's look at, again, the low caps versus the high caps. If this chart goes up, shit is on. That's nuts, really nuts. Because these high caps now have 4 times more liquidity or whatever than what they had back then. And some low caps here exploded. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. And if we look at individual alts, for some, it's hard. For some, it's less hard, right? Like you could say there are coins that absolutely suck right now and that are being pretty much, down only. Let me try to find a good example right here. And this Clearpool, for example, this is not down. This is not making new lows or anything. In fact, I think that we can find a pretty good support here soon. But there are coins that are actually freaking down only. Luckily, I don't have a lot of those in this list. There are coins that are down only. You get the point. Look at your own portfolio, probably, right? So these coins, yeah, sure, they are kind of scary, right? Because you might feel like, new low, it will never go back up again. Don't be so sure about that. Because if you look at one of the big winners that we have right now, which is a beautiful example, actually, is Zcash. Zcash, everybody loves it. Why? Because it goes up. That's freaking it. Nobody loved it over here. Shut up. Don't be a hypocrite, right? That's Zcash. Cool. However, if you look at all the cycles before, right? In 2016, 17, when Bitcoin was into a full bull market, Zcash went down 99.9%. That's 10 up to 100 times as hard, as low than what altcoins did right now on average. And still up, right? Every cycle so far. So don't write it off just because something is making new lows or going down really hard. In fact, the harder it goes down, the more room it has to go up. Down doesn't mean dead, right? Unless you're down under the ground. But for altcoins, it's not a one-on-one definition. Now, if you look at Zcash, again, Big pump during this alt season, crazy. And then what happened? It went from $900 all the way down to $18. 900 to 18. Hey, that's down a lot, right? And that's, how much is that? 97%, 97.9%. And if you look at certain coins right here, like, I don't know, Aerodrome or whatever, from the Pico top to the Pico bottom, it is down 88%. And people are already calling this dead, right? Yeah, it went all the way down to 28 cents. If it was down like Zcash, what was it, 98? Then I can't even get that, and it's less than 5 cents. That's fucked up. And still it wasn't dead. So I need you to have that perspective. Don't base a coin being alive or dead on the price chart. That's nonsense. Because if you write it off like that, fine. People did it over here as well. They missed out on a casual 20x though, right? And that's the worst pump on this chart, right? So it happened again. Then after that cycle, it made a new lower low. You might be like, man, that, well, and look what happened, right? So if I look at certain alts, yeah, they are down only. Does it mean that they are dead? No. A lot will be, but it doesn't mean that they're dead. But there are also a lot of coins that are now finding kind of macro support, right? And that's, for some of these, a once-in-a-lifetime buying opportunity. With ADA, look, it broke. Why is my trend drawn like this, though? This doesn't make sense. How the should be, well, it's broken anyway, right? Doesn't matter anymore. So that trend is lost. Cool. What are we going to look at? Well, next support, right? I think that the next support, big support, 30 cents, right? And then we're going back to bear market lows, 24 cents. Cool. Right? It's now 43. Tell me, wanna like not buy it or sell it because this maybe will happen? And maybe something like this will happen. Look at the risk-reward ratio. That's all I'm saying, basically, right? And you don't know where it goes, but therefore, look at support resistance, whatever, macro, all that kind of stuff, right? So with a lot of coins, I'm like, sure, they can go lower, but if you are a good trader, then, or a good investor, then you should not care about that because you know that the strategy is to DCA. I said it before, DCA is the answer for the smart people that tell you like, hey, I don't know, right? Because we have all, what bull, bear, doesn't matter. We have all one thing in common. Nobody knows. So what's the best answer in that case? Make your best guess, DCA or not, based on that guess, right? And my best guess for a lot of these coins is that we are way closer to a bottom than a top. Way closer. Doesn't matter if they go down another 50%. That means the top is not a 10x away, but a 20x away from that point. That's what it is. Right? And it sounds like, oh, people are talking about 20x's right now. You know what's stupid? Look at this. When Sui was here, people were saying, Sui, 10x. It could do a 10x. $50. I heard people say that. What happened? Went to $1, right? Now calling for a 10x is way more possible, way more likely, way more realistic. But now people call you crazy for it. This is weird, right, actually? So what I'm doing, I'm looking at coins that I feel like, they're big enough or their founder is smart enough to not walk away scared because everybody is calling for a bear market without real good reason. Right? Because if you have low cap founders, these people might just be as scared and be like, fuck this, I'm out. Take my money, rock the shit, and I'm gone. Right? With the coins in this list, I don't really worry about that though. Right? Most coins in this list. I don't really worry about that. Dogecoin, for example, you might be like, oh, it's boring. Look, it has stood the test of time. If something is going to survive out of all this list, it's Doge, 100%. Right? Now, I'm just looking back at the last cycles. We had a pump, big bull market, went down, real sideways / up-ish, right? And then we had a bam, bull market. Down, sideways / up-ish, bam, bull market. Down, sideways / up-ish. You tell me. Is where we are right now more looking like this or like this? Right? And again, at the end of the day, we don't know. But make the best guess. That's all we're doing. Right? But also don't guess it based on one point. Right? Like you could say if you're bearish, like, well, yeah, here we had a high and here we retested that high. So this time we had a high right here and we should do shit. Right? We should do nothing. Right? If you want to gamble on that, then that's fine. But no. So I'm looking at these coins and I'm like, DCAing is the way, right? Especially since I have a good idea of like where it might go. And that sounds weird, but again, if you overlay the ISM, and 100% all we need to take a look at. That's gold. All we need to take a look at. It has more accuracy than anything else. Why the fuck would we ignore that? Right? That will be unwise. If we look and at the end of last year, when the ISM had that pumpish thing, what did Doge do? Doge, whoop, up, right? Did very well. Yeah, monthly, you can see even better. Doge did very well. And it went to, what was it? 50 cents, give or take. Go shorty. Now it's back at 14. So I'm like, the ISM is an oscillator for 75 years. This eventually will go back up again, right? Doesn't matter. With this small pump, nowhere close to the top range, Doge already went to 50 cents. It's now at 14. So worst case scenario, which is not going to play out, can tell you already, the ISM will only go here again and never higher than that. And Doge maybe goes back to around 50 cents again. That's a 3.5x on one of the safest altcoins. Yeah, I call the meme coin one of the safest. It is what it is, right? That's decent. However, I'm also like, hey, what did Doge do when the ISM was elevated? Well, you can look at the numbers for yourself. Right? And I'm not saying Doge will do a 1000x this cycle from this 14 cents. If it does a 10x, I think we can consider ourselves lucky. But that's decent for such a high cap alt, right? I'm not talking big risk right here relative. So in that case, I'm like, DCA, right? Because at this point, I'm at least looking for a 5x on this thing, easy, right? So if I DCA right here, and I started the DCA a little high, 17 cents for Doge or so. And if I DCA right here, and if it goes to the next big support point of, 10 cents, DCA there, and maybe around 7.5. And that's not real. It's a difference between, DCAing and catching a falling knife, right? Catching a falling knife, you just look at a chart that goes down and you only buy based on nothing while it keeps on going down. DCAing, strategically DCAing, is looking back at a chart that had a big dump, which may or may not still go down further, while there is the forecast and the expectation from the macro and or the altcoin market that it will go up more. Right? And in that case, I could only be happy if it goes down more. Because if I now buy at 14 and my lowest entry will be 7, then my average would be around 10.5 cents. Right? Let's say 10 cents. If it then goes back to that 50 cents, then I'm already on a 5x. And that's with that pathetic ISM pump that we had. Right? So that's the least we should expect. Now, I made it very simple. There is look, like I showed before, we're working on blockchain decoded, right? And here we have risk levels, and these are like so darn accurate. It's actually sickening me that I didn't had this before. But this BNB, for example, right? We could look like, okay, BNB now risk level 31%. It's one of the better coins out there right now, right? Holding up very well. Therefore, it's sitting relative high. Some coins are sitting at 2%. Like that's just like, okay, if you don't buy here, then what are you doing with your life, right? But BNB, for example, 30%. Cool. This cycle is pretty 2019-ish, right? What did this do in 2019? Well, it went all the way to, and I'm not going to include COVID because that's nonsense, right? Went to a risk level of 15% at the lowest. What would 15% be for BNB? $600. Okay. It's now 900. That's losing 30%. That's not bad. I lost it yesterday and I made it back this morning, right? Almost. These are normal numbers, right? So that's like the downside risk that I feel like this is what you should be prepared for. Cool. Also, if you look at like, oh, it could go there, right? It could also go to way higher risk levels, right? And what are these numbers? These risk levels, again, they are being hit, right? A lot as well. Yeah. Even if you look at the middle table, we're already talking about 1700. That's just 60% risk. Like, that's like, if we don't get there, then what the fuck, right? 65 is 1900. Then we're going to some high risk levels, which are not always occurring. And if they do, you don't spend a lot of time there, but they do occur. And then we're talking about 2, 3, 4,000. I'm looking like, okay, what's the risk reward on this? That's not bad. Render, the coin that I gave as an example before, I like Render. I think that Render is going to do very well. And it's sitting at a 12% risk level at this point. 12. You know the last time when it was that low? The bear market bottom of 2022. Do with it whatever you want. Could it go lower? Maybe. Maybe. It spends, give or take, 1.3% of the entire time based on the last 5 years. It spends there. So sure, there is a very small chance that it will be there for a while. What if it goes higher? Oh, look for yourself. Render is now what? 160. Going back to a stable, level where it's just like comfortable. It's around 50 up to 60% risk. It's this right here. It's $5, give or take. That's an insane risk reward ratio. It also spent quite some time still in the higher levels, right? This level right here, 90%, it almost spends just as much time as these two lower levels combined. That's $12. So you could say like, well, that's maybe just as likely eventually as 120. So are you seriously not gonna maybe consider DCAing at 160? Okay, that's how I look at it. There's one Altseason indicator that I've created, which is insane. And that we're gonna share on Blockchain Decoded as well. And that's the Altseason macro oscillator or indicator, whatever I call it. And that's showing something really cool, actually. Because what it does is you can take a look at the altcoin on the Bitcoin chart, right? And you can look at it and be like, it's low, so I'm gonna buy. Or it's low, so I'm scared, I'm not gonna buy. Or it's boring, it's sideways, I'm gonna wait. You can draw conclusions. Based on this chart alone, you could have no fucking clue though, right? You have to put this and that on it. I've created one indicator that puts this and that on it. And that's the Altseason macro indicator. And the Altseason macro indicator is an indicator that looks at like, what do we need in order to get an Altseason? What are the most important macro factors that show like a macro is looking good and you can expect altcoins to pump based on that? That's the global M2, the Bitcoin dominance, which is not really macro, but still good. And without stable coins, because otherwise I'm not investing in stables. The Fed balance sheet, the ISM, of course, the DXY, strength of the dollar, the S&P momentum, the rate cuts, and the CPI, Consumer Price Index. I weighted them all out against each other. Lots of freaking work. And this indicator is now showing not like, hey, bam, signal, we get an Altseason. No, it's showing, bam, signal, macro is good. Pay attention right now because it could happen. This is the opposite of a lagging indicator. This is such a front-running indicator, actually. If you look right here in the last cycle, right, we were going down. Here, it said, we were already at the top, right? It was going down. You could say like, oh, we're losing momentum. And here it was flashing red. Here it said like, whatever you do, macro is saying no, right? And if you were out then, you avoided this whole dump, crash, sideways nonsense market. Here, you would have not said like, oh, it's going to happen, right? It went down, up, down, up, right, yada, yada. Here, the macro oscillator already said like, hey, whatever this chart is telling you, macro gives you the green light right now, really. And still, it took a while. We got COVID, right? Macro stayed fine though. And if you here started to say like, well, you know what? Macro is good. I'm a lot more comfortable right now. I can expect it. Sure, you would still have to wait a long while. But if you DCate this area here, so this where my cursor is, would be give or take average, then you rode it up fantastically. Right? And in the cycle before that as well. Here, the chart was going sideways for a long time. And people may have been in, right? Waiting, eventually time capitulation. And here it said, guys, do something else because macro is now saying no, right? And you were just out from April 2015. And you were not even expecting it until 1 year later. You didn't have to check your portfolio every day, worry every day. How's this looking? How's that looking? This signal came and said like, okay, keep your eyes open. And what happened? We basically went up from that, up from that, up from that, up from that. All right. And then, of course, at a certain point, it said out. And you would have, bam, ignored this whole dump. So this indicator is nuts. Because it's not just a line on the chart that's trying to predict anything. It's looking at the most important factors combined to tell you like, hey, you should maybe expect it or should maybe not expect it yet. It's not a flash buy, flash sell. Doesn't work like that. Way better this. What it's saying right now, it is saying that it's getting better, right? We are in a very decent uptrend, but it's not good enough, right? And I think that, you know, one of the reasons is the rate cuts, right? That's not really that fantastic right now. And yeah, I mean, the balance sheet mostly as well, right? These are two ingredients that need to be turned around. These were the two biggest enemies. These are also the two things that are being turned around, right? And yeah, the uptrend is there. But you know, according to this, it says like not yet, right? Just you can like, and that's so cool about this indicator as well. It's not that you can say like, oh, not yet, okay, cool, and in the meantime you wait and you miss out already. Nah, it's like really not yet, right? In the last cycle as well, or right, like you could have ignored all of this and stepped in over here. You bought at the same price as someone who bought like 2 years earlier. Basically, you avoid yourself so much, you know, stress and hope and potential time capitulation, etc. So nuts. Therefore, I don't want to sound like a salesman, but blockchain decoded is exactly what you need, right? Because who is showing you these kind of things? Most people, they put an analysis platform together and they be like, oh, let's put the fear and greed index on it because people love that and this and that. And to be honest, I was looking at it and I was like, no, hell no, we're not going to put that on it because that's too much mid-cycle noise as well. So we... like, man, I don't want to make it about that, but this platform is going to be insane, though. And I love building it. It offers me a lot of experience as well. So, yeah, what I'm basically doing right now is I'm just looking at my altcoin list. I'm looking like, okay, what are these risk levels? I'm writing down like, okay, this risk level, I'm a DCA with this amount. This risk level, I'm a DCA with that amount. And don't be stubborn about it. Like, you DCA, you're going to lose money. DCA at low levels in and DCA at high levels out you will be fine. But it could take years eventually before you see the reward. And that's exactly the opposite of the mind share that people have when they're in the altcoin market. Because again, you think altcoins, quick buck. No, it's going to take a long time. It's investing. Right? It's investing. It's not gambling straight away on a slot machine or anything like that. So, let's leave it there. I hope this was very useful. Let me know what you think of this down below. In the meantime, thanks. Oh, in the meantime, it's not the meantime, it's the end already. But thanks for watching. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on, and I'll see you in the next one.